All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I just wanted to cover this Ayesha Curry storyline, this narrative, from a whole other dynamic. That being from the perspective of this writer right here, this scribe by the name of Crystal Marie, who is a super liberal black female. Am I saying that because she acknowledged that? No, I'm just saying that because that's my perception, and I'm sure that that is the case. Anyway, Miss Crystal Marie is going to acknowledge something that I've already stated. That being that the vast majority of females today have had the same thoughts as Ayesha Curry. And the main reason why people are so incensed is because, unfortunately, in this society, we're being raised as a society to view the woman as this goddess-like figure who is not prone or privy to thoughts of lust or betrayal, quote-unquote, or the promotion of chaos. And nothing could be further from the truth. The woman by nature is an agent of chaos, and she has to be moderated by a man who grasps the woman's nature. And most men today do not understand the woman at all because they're being raised by women. So let's see what Miss Crystal Marie has to say and how she's going to substantiate her assertion that many women today feel like Ayesha Curry. And for brothers who are inquisitive about this website, you may have heard of it before. It's called the Very Smart Brothers website. It's a super liberal website where a lot of bugged out black men give their observations on society at large. The last time that you may have heard about them, if the website sounds familiar in your mind, is during that whole Jemele Hill situation about a year or so ago, where she stated, or at least she co-signed the sentiment, that black men are the white people of black people because supposedly, according to the homosexual writer on the Very Smart Brothers website, black men are oppressing people in the same way that the Caucasian is. And Jemele Hill decided that she was going to co-sign that sentiment, which really just exposed what the super liberal black female is actually about. She uses racialism as an inroads to get black people to accept her true ideologies, those being globalism, Luciferianism, and most importantly, feminism. So let's get back to this article. For most of my adult life, I've been the kind of slim that inspired a stranger to tell me, if you could just eat a pork chop sandwich, you'd be all right. In the fall of 2017, when my husband and I learned I was pregnant, I figured this baby would be that sandwich, but not anything more than that. Nevertheless, during the first 2 trimesters or so, I snapped on anyone who attempted to tell me that I would likely snap back right after birth. Don't put that pressure on me. Snapback culture is made up by Instagram anyway. No, actually, snapback culture has been made up by people who actually want to be healthy. Unfortunately, one of the main counterculture ideologies that's being propagated by modern day females is the love obesity philosophy. We saw that pushed by Monique a few years ago, and there are many females all over the internet and on television who are trying to encourage females to be fat, and everyone should love fat people. No, I mean, if that's your own personal preference, sometimes men love big women. Sometimes women are attracted to men who are, oversized or overweight or what have you. And some people hold their weight better than others. But there's always a health dynamic that is there. So no, the snapback culture does not come from Instagram or the internet. The concept of snapping back to your original weight is based on, the concept or the idea that is a health risk if you remain obese or overweight. I reminded my husband playfully at first, and then with more gravitas, that he had to stick with me no matter what. Those are her insecurities coming out. That's also something that many super liberal females believe. They believe that once they've gotten a man to marry them, that opens up the gate for them to be the complete demon that they've always wanted to be. And I always say this, many of these husbands, they're in hell right now, but they can't say anything because they've made a quote-unquote commitment to a person who they did not even know before they got married. And they didn't know that person because they did not investigate. If you want to figure out who that woman is going to be after marriage, make that woman wait. There's only so long that she's going to be able to hold in who she is. A lot of these dudes get married after 8-9 months of quote-unquote knowing a female. You cannot know someone after 8-9 months. As Judge Mathis loves to say, people can hide a crack addiction, a crack habit for a year. So imagine what other things a woman can hide from you, especially with as well and as proficiently as they can lie. You have to make sure that you take your time in these relationships. But anyway, I reminded my husband playfully at first, and then with more gravitas, that he had to stick with me no matter what. He joked back that he'd never leave me, but that he would start hiding food if it became necessary. As the pregnancy progressed, 40, 50, then 60 pounds later, I would waddle down to Shake Shack on my lunch break, sometimes holding onto the wall as people jumped out of my way. It's very obvious that this person, the writer of this article, has mental problems and self-image issues, as most super liberal females do. I didn't feel like a glowing giver of life. Well, because you're not a giver of life. You're someone who holds the fetus in your womb for 9 months. In order for life to be created, that takes a man and a woman. That's how life is created. And of course, under the authority of the Most High. That's how that works. I felt like a sweaty blimp taking up more space on the sidewalk than was appropriate. That probably means that you were a big blimp. That you were out of control. That you were as wide as a damn Cadillac. Maybe you were overdoing it with the food. A lot of women do that. They get pregnant and they think that's an excuse for them to blow up like a house. I also felt invisible. I'd heard stories of women being hit on while pregnant, but somehow I dodged that bullet. Maybe because you were, as wide as a Mack truck. Who the hell knows? Once I was visibly with child, even the guy outside of my grocery store who typically asked for money averted his eyes and found another victim. Small victory, perhaps. Brothers, what is she saying here? Once she felt like she was no longer sexually attractive or sexually viable, even the homeless man was someone who she wanted to hit on her. That's really what she's saying in a roundabout way. Now, brothers, this is the point. This is something that cats really have to pay very close attention to. And that's why I addressed the Ayesha Curry situation in the way that I did. Okay? Because her saying what she said is not that big a deal. But it is a tip-off that when someone is that insecure, they can become very desperate. Now, with her, she's with Stephen Curry. So it would therefore be far more difficult for her to find a replacement for him than a quote-unquote regular woman. Okay? But once again, the overall point is that females, they do have the roving eye, especially if they can justify within their own minds that they're not being quote-unquote appreciated enough or they're not getting enough attention. Now, she says, and so when someone I dated years ago texted to say, hey, long time no speak, I felt a dangerous thrill at the thought of someone who may not know I was pregnant talking to me. Oh, boy. Now, brothers, notice she said a dangerous thrill because even she is noting subconsciously that there is the potential, however remote, that something sexual could happen at least within her mind first, if not in the real world. So now, once again, and so when someone I dated years ago texted to me, hey, long time no speak, I felt a dangerous thrill at the thought of someone who may not know I was pregnant talking to me. I couldn't articulate why. I can articulate why. Because you're an agent of chaos, that's why. But I also felt guilty. Well, you should. Because you had sexual thoughts about that man. And and if you had the opportunity, at least in my view, if you had the opportunity and a guarantee that you would not get caught, you would have laid down with him. If for no other reason than an ego boost. And for the most part, when a woman sleeps around on her man, a man that she loves and who she knows is doing right by her, if she does sleep around with another man, it's just for an ego boost. Her self-confidence is in a state of constant flux. Constant flux. She says, I couldn't articulate why, but I also felt guilty, even if it was just a harmless text from someone who had no idea that I could no longer wear shoes with laces. Damn, she must have really blown up. Even her damn feet are fat. There's no such thing as a harmless text to a man if she's a woman. Okay? If a man receives a text from a woman and it's not a female relative, what's going to resonate in his mind is, why is she texting me back? I have a chance to hit that. That's all that's about. All that male-female friend, that's nothing but bullshit. That's a mechanism for a way for the woman to establish potential dick in the glass. That's all that is. And another outlet for her to express whatever she feels about herself, her relationships, etc. That's all. So if you brothers are with a female and She said that she has a quote unquote homosexual friend, especially if it's someone that she has not known for that long a time. Your antennas should definitely be up. They should certainly be up. All that nonsense about, oh, well, you know, you're being insecure and why is it an issue that I have a male friend, so on and so forth. Brothers, just nip all that shit in the bud. A lot of you cats allow yourselves to fall prey to a lot of empty rhetoric from the woman. Oh, well, you know, I've known him for this amount of time and it's a harmless relationship. We just talk about each other's lives and blah, blah, blah. Brother, if you know that you're not good with that, cut the woman off immediately. That's why you have to spend a lot of time getting to know that woman. These dudes, they're living in a woman's house after 2 months and then they want to start riffing about a woman and her male friends. You should have come to an understanding about that far earlier and been able to, create a decision within your mind of what you wanted to tolerate. Let's see here. She says, I couldn't articulate why, but I also felt guilty, even if it was just a harmless text from someone who had no idea that I could no longer wear shoes with laces. We caught up on the basics, and he congratulated me and my husband on my pregnancy, and I figured that was that. No, that was not that. Because he was in full side dude mode, and you knew it. You knew that he was in full side dude mode. And you loved it. You loved the fact that he was in full side dude mode. He was ready to be patient. Because that's all a quote-unquote male friend is someone who's willing to bide his time and be patient. He just wants to hit it once, that's all. So that he can add that notch to his headboard. And her being pregnant was even better for him. Hell, maybe I can run up in that raw. That's what he was thinking. That's what side dudes, that's what the low-level type of dude, the simp/side dude, that's what goes on in his mind. Because she opened the door for him. As the weeks continued, we chat sporadically. What books are you reading? How was the baby shower? And I reveled in the attention of this person, unable to see my cheeks plumping, my ankles swelling, and yet still able to see me, as trite as that sounds. No, it doesn't sound trite. It sounds pathetic. It sounds, once again, like another manifestation of a female who is not in control of her decorum, of her discernment. It's not in control. She knew eventually that there was going to come a tipping point where the man would try to hit on her. She knew that already. But she told herself in her mind, I'm going to keep this facade alive, this facade going, until he does say something out of bounds or overboard, because I just love talking to a man other than my husband. And that's what cats have to watch out for in your own personal relationship, not getting too caught up in emotions when it comes to what's going on in somebody else's relationship. That's an end sample for you and me to learn from, so that when we encounter it, we know how to handle it, nip it in the butt right away. Eventually, as people from your past tend to do, he crossed a line. No, he didn't cross a line. He wanted to test the line. Where was the barrier? That's all. He did not cross the line. He wanted to see where the line was at. You crossed the line when you decided that you were going to communicate with a man other than your husband and claimed that it was just platonic when you knew what it was. That was a way for you to seek out some type of sustenance spiritually and mentally and also romantically to a degree from another man and play out this fictitious rapport with another suitor. I'd like to say that I blocked his number, but I didn't. Of course you didn't, because you wanted to keep the door open for something else, for more attention. Instead, I changed the subject and then stopped responding to his messages. Meanwhile, my husband constantly reminded me that I was beautiful, but I didn't see what he saw. I just saw a swollen, carb-inhaling machine. Plus, he's obligated to say it as my spouse and the person who knocked me up in the first place. How do I know it's real? Brothers, you see that? Once you decide to quote-unquote marry these women, they no longer look at what you say as being equivalent to what another man says. And this dynamic also exists when it comes to how a woman receives compliments, especially the black woman, how she receives compliments from a black man as opposed to men of other races. Many black women, not all of them, but for the most part, many black women believe that if they receive a compliment on their beauty from a non-black man, that's of more weight than if a black man tells them that they look good. In the same way, when you decide that you're going to quote-unquote marry that woman, after a while when the monotony sets in, she does not view some of the things that you say or many of the things that you say with the same quote-unquote gravitas as they do a random guy. And it's very unfortunate. That's how females sabotage their own relationships. And as you can see here, this person, Krista Marie, seems to think that her quote-unquote husband is an employee more than he is a husband. And you have to be very careful about the entitlement issues that these women have. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and for a while our family of 3 was so wrapped up in each other, I didn't care what I looked like. As the weeks went by and I settled into motherhood, like many predicted, I began to shed the weight I'd picked up. Yet when I met new people, I felt obligated to work into the conversation early. I just had a baby, by the way. I wanted everyone to know this isn't my real body. This is my body after a baby. Did I mention I just had a baby? That's why I look like this. While you were at it, you should have also thrown in there, did I mention that I'm batshit crazy? You should have thrown that shit in there also. Almost a year later, due to the demands of working by day and chasing a deceptively fast crawler at night, I am back to pre-pregnancy weight, but I feel like a deflated balloon, limp and stretched out. My navel is now a sort of valley between my abs that separated, yet this is totally a thing. I am softer, lacking the lean muscle mass I had before, and while I feel proud of what my body was capable of doing on my son's birthday, there's a part of me that wonders if I will ever feel the blissful joy of rocking a crop top without layering a jacket on top of it again. In other words, brothers, as I tell you, when the woman reaches a certain age, she feels like she has to mourn the death of her sexual aspect. Okay? Like they say, an athlete dies twice, when he retires and also his actual death. The woman is very similar. She believes that when she gets to 29, 30, 31 years old, that her sexual aspect is dying. That's why if she does not have a child by then, she tries to pressure whoever she's with to marry her and or have a child. Because she believes that her viability for other men is going to start to depreciate rapidly if she does not get what she wants at that moment. So the woman works in phases. So when Ayesha Curry, wife to one of the most recognizable professional athletes alive, author of cookbooks and also of one of my least favorite tweets, appeared on Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk and said, now, before we read the quote from Ayesha Curry, notice this person said, one of my least favorite tweets. What is she talking about? She's talking about why so many liberal black females are upset with Ayesha Curry in the first place. When Ayesha Curry basically said that she does not feel the need to dress in a highly sexualized manner. That pissed off many of these liberal black females because that's what they lead with. They lead with their sexual aspect. Okay? Despite what the woman says about her intellect and her feminine powers and all that, the woman defines herself and leads by her sexual energy, her sexual aspect. And it's only when the sexual aspect starts to dissipate, that is when she starts to mature. That is normally around the age of 45 or so, depending on how much they keep themselves in shape. So let's see what she's going to quote from Ayesha Curry. Ayesha says, something that really bothers me and has honestly given me a little bit of an insecurity is the fact that, yeah, there are all these women throwing themselves at Steph, but me, like the past 10 years, like I don't have any of that. Like I have zero. This sounds weird, but like male attention. And so then I began to internalize it, like it's something wrong with me. I don't want it, but like it'd be nice to know that someone's looking. So Miss Krista Marie saw a kindred spirit in Insecurity. That's when Ayesha Curry started to come off to her as more of a real person, as opposed to the quote-unquote perfect wife image that she's been trying to project over social media for the past few years. And once again, brothers, we have to grasp this, and I'll probably be covering this in another video. They're a brand. Okay, I'll be covering this more in depth in another video. They're a brand. She says, I got it. For a moment, Ayesha Curry wasn't the eye-roll inducing lady in a tax bracket light years away from me. At least she admits that she's jealous that Ayesha Curry has more money than her. She was a wife and mom who knew that in many ways she changed since she was 20. While I was having a moment, Ayesha Curry was learning what many women figured out a long time ago. Whether you're Mother Teresa or Amber Rose, you can get dragged for an entire news cycle or two. Oh boy. This chick said, this toxically feminine writer said that Ayesha Curry learned what many women figured out a long time ago. Whether you're Mother Teresa or Amber Rose, you can get dragged for an entire news cycle or two. Brothers, who gets dragged in the media more than Donald Trump? Who? No one on the planet gets dragged in the American media more than Donald Trump. There's no female that gets dragged in the media anywhere near as much as most of them should be. So I would have to say that her husband is most likely a big simp. This writer here, this scribe, Crystal Marie, her husband is most likely a huge simp. Ayesha sat with her family, moderated by an Oprah-inspired Jada Pinkett Smith, and she did what black women have been doing for years when we get around a kitchen table. Yeah, talking shit and saying a whole lot of nothing. That's what, no disrespect. But once again, when you see these women in these round table talks, it's a whole lot of nothing. She used a safe space to share a self-admitted insecurity, one only heightened by the public nature of her life. Maybe for a moment, she forgot that while those at the table could empathize with the toxicity of snapback culture, unrealistic body ideals, the glamorous trophy that she is expected to be, and a thirsty media wholeheartedly committed to reminding the world of who hasn't quite lost the baby weight, pure raw meme makers on the World Wide Web could not. None of what this person stated has anything to do with her insecurities at all, or her association with Stephen Curry. None. So that's, once again, brothers, when you deal with these females, you have to deal with their projected issues and problems that have no substance, no reality. The woman does not deal well with reality. She deals with the ideas in her mind that she projects outward. The critics saw a wealthy woman who previously complained about catcalls, now complaining that she no longer had catcallers. Yeah, just a regular woman. A big complainer. Yeah. I saw a woman envisioning her stock going down and questioning her value. Brothers, you see that? Once again, the woman views herself as a stock, as an asset. So should you. So should you. View people how they view themselves, and you'll find yourselves in less precarious situations. Stop trying to make the woman greater than she understands herself to be. The woman is a financial asset. She's like a stock. Appreciate her as such. And when she becomes more trouble than she's worth, you have to decide whether or not she's worth working with. And if she's not, you send her on her way. They saw a woman who has it all. A beautiful family, light eyes, more Negro jealousy, and an enviable career, including her own line of pots and pans, whining about attention she doesn't need anyway. And brothers, let me say this. The reason why I said more Negro jealousy is because this is another issue that we see pervade the so-called black community, especially from the women. This stuff about light eyes and good hair, and this comes mostly from the so-called black woman. Mostly from them. They'll say, well, you know, society puts so much pressure on us. Bullshit. You put pressure on yourself because you're a follower. The woman by nature is a follower. And as I've always said, back when the man established the culture of the so-called black community, back in the late 60s, early 70s, black men had so-called black women wearing their hair natural and afros. Okay? So always be aware of a lot of the hang-ups of so many of these quote-unquote enlightened women. They're always caught up in outward conventions like eye color and hair texture, skin tone, so on and so forth. They saw a woman who has it all, a beautiful family, light eyes, and an enviable career, including her own line of pots and pans, whining about attention she doesn't need anyway. I saw a mother examining herself in the mirror, wondering what we all wonder. Do I still have it? You're wondering if you still have it because your whole life existence is based in your sexual aspect. Brothers, the woman is nowhere near as deep as she wants you to think that she is. Nowhere near. I saw me. In a world that sees nuance as nuisance, women are not allowed to both despise the man on the street that compliments your ass and also feel invisible in the shadow of a man who is showered with adoration, praise, and the attention of countless women. No, that's not nuance. What that is division within your consciousness. You have an issue that is causing you to lack stability of your mind. That's not nuance. Nuance would actually entail that you have greater understanding of a situation, not a base level understanding, which is what the average woman has. I mean, no disrespect, but the average woman is a two-dimensional thinker who leads with her emotion. This person here is displaying that characteristic. But just to get back to the point, brothers, the writer of this article is admitting what I always state, that being that most females operate on the level of an Ayesha Curry. They lead with their jealousy. They lead with, to be honest with you, boredom. And that causes them to commit chaos or to perform acts of chaos in their life and in other people's lives. Ayesha Curry was not concerned that her statement might be a distraction for Stephen Curry, who was in the midst of a series against the Rockets that could have went either way if the pendulum had swung in a certain direction. She wasn't concerned about that. All she was concerned about was being as quote-unquote transparent as possible, because she was around other females who were just as bugged out as her. So to make a long story short, brothers, expect the unexpected. Always expect the unexpected. So peace.